I'm grateful for all the blessings I have, so I feel like now I share the blessing. My name is Keiona Clark, and I became an artist because I'm a breast cancer survivor. I basically could draw. I loved art ever since I was old enough to hold a crayon. My dad actually passed the talent on to me. You know, he blessed me with the talent. He wasn't an artist either, but he actually had the ability or the talent to draw. Actually, him and his brother, who was my uncle, also can draw. I was the child who got the talent, and I actually have a cousin who actually also got the talent. But so when I had breast cancer, my dad was sick at the time. He's since passed on. And when he was sick, we were cleaning. Him and my mom was cleaning the house, and found a box that had a whole bunch of certificates and awards that I had won throughout grade school for art that I didn't remember getting. So she basically called me and said, I found the box and there's all these awards in there that you won for art. And I'm like, when did I win that stuff? So after the treatments and the chemo and all of that, I actually just started, I went to a couple of sip of paints, and then, I just basically bought a canvas, some paint, and just started painting. Entered a contest, a mural contest for given by Artomatic at the time, and a friend of mine called her up because she was an artist, and she and I went to do the mural, and it was our first time ever doing a mural, and we won third place. So I think that was the moment where I said, okay, maybe I am good at this. So because I've never been formally trained, so in my mind, you're like, am I really an artist, or can I just draw? So from there, I just started painting and trying different techniques. Really got into like glitter and rhinestones. I was adding a whole bunch of embellishments to my paintings, and I realized that maybe I do need a little bit of push. So I took a class at Gallery Place with Dana Ellen. I don't know if anyone knows that artist, but she's a very well-known artist in the area. Very nice lady, by the way. And she used to give classes in her loft, and I remember when I was taking the class, there was times where I would be painting and she'd say, oh, you're fine, you don't need me. I'm like, yes, I do. I need to know some different techniques and stuff. So one of the things that she taught me was layering. So before, when I would paint, I would just literally just paint on the canvas and think I was done. But she used to always say, basically once you paint it, paint over it and paint it again, because once it's layered, it makes it look a little more richer. So that was the one thing that I did, and realized that she was right. So then from there, I started to invest in materials. So, before you'll buy like the cheap paints and the cheap brushes. And then, so actually let me rewind. So I work for the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission. And they have a gallery in the lobby. So I was like, maybe my stuff started to stack up. And my friends were like, you should sell your work. It's just sitting here. And I was just like, no one wants to buy this stuff. So started working at WSSC, did an exhibit there, and I literally sold everything off the wall. Like when I hung up the first piece, I went to my desk and I got an email saying that someone wanted to buy it. My first customer, who is Ayoka Blanford, I'm gonna put her name out there, she purchased my first piece and told me my prices were too low, and she gave me extra money. And she said, you need to raise your prices. So I did another show, tripled the price. I didn't double, I tripled prices, and that stuff flew off the wall. So I was just like, oh my God, maybe I am doing something here. So then that's when I started to invest in the paints and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna sell this work, and I have to at least make sure that, I sell it for quality. So from there, I just started running. So how I come up with the idea for pieces is, actually there is no really process. Like I don't meditate, I don't do any of that. Like I could literally just be watching something on TV and be inspired. I could read a story and be inspired. I could read a poem and be inspired. I can just sometimes just be in the kitchen, fix something to eat, and just have like an aha moment. So whenever that happens, then sometimes I'll be laying in the bed and have an idea and literally roll over, pick up my phone and put it in my notes. So from there, I'll get different inspiration. So what I do is, and I think we all do as artists, because I've actually found pieces that I've created, other artists have done the same image, where you'll literally just go through Google Images and just try to get some type of inspiration of what you want to do. So or ideas or whatever that case is. So, and then from there I kind of rolled with it. The tatted collection was the first collection for actual collection that I did. So how I came up with that idea is because I actually have tattoos. Back to the breast cancer thing, like after I got tattoos when I was younger, I stopped getting them, and then after I had breast cancer, I was just like, okay, you know what, you only live once. So I decided to get more. I actually have the breast cancer symbol with butterfly wings on my neck, and all of my friends actually got that one to honor me. And where my port was for when I had my chemo, I have a tattoo that's over top of my port. So that was kind of what gave me the inspiration to do a tattoo collection. And plus, I wanted to show that, you know, as women, we are strong, and then sometimes we're judged by the way we look. So, you know, just because someone has tattoos, like for instance, this piece over here, that's called a tatted bride. So I want to show that just because your tattoo doesn't mean someone doesn't want to be your wife. You're still a wife. And I have another piece that isn't shown here, but it's called the tatted mom, and it's like a mother with a belly bump, and she has tats on her stomach. So to show that, you know, as women we can be tattooed and we're still someone's mother. So with the tatted collection, actually I'll use that for an example. So the images have these tats on it, and you know what, every artist I know asks me how I do that, and I always tell them that's my secret. So every artist has their own way of doing things, and sometimes you just don't share. That's one of the things I don't share, but it allows me to incorporate some graphic into my pieces. So I actually had the pleasure of meeting Charles Palmer, and I know a lot of artists know who he is, and he critiqued my work for me, and I was just like, oh. I fanned out for a minute. But actually what he told me is that this is the first time he's seen something like this. He was like, I need to basically keep running with this. And I think that's basically the advice he gave me. He's like, it's beautiful. He said, I would recommend that you just keep that up. So for him to say that to me, you know, someone who's been around for many years, somebody's really well respected, for me to tell me that I have a technique that he's never seen before and that he loves it, it meant a whole lot to me. When it comes to technique, besides the layering of the paints, I don't really like to say I have a technique. I actually had one artist ask me, he came to me and he said, he saw all of my pieces and he says, oh my gosh, you're so advanced, I can never figure out how to do that. He's like, how do you do it? I said, it's not something that you do, it's just something you see. So once you paint it, you kind of step off of it and you look at it, and if it makes sense, then you leave it alone. If it doesn't make sense, then you just keep working at it until it makes sense. And then sometimes I'll go back and I'll actually photograph the piece, look at the photo, because sometimes your eye doesn't see what a camera or someone else's eye will see. So once you photo your piece, you kind of see where you may have missed a couple pieces here and there. So being a curator is something that just kind of happened. I think what really worked for me, or actually was the success of me becoming a curator, because a lot of people actually wonder, how do you become a curator? I actually have a nice network of artists. I have good relationships with artists. I know a lot of artists in the DMV, diverse, actually I have a diverse collection of friends and networks of artists. So the curate was easy at that point, you know, and then once people realize that you have a network, because people look at us as unicorns. Of course, we know we exist and we know who's around us, but a lot of people outside of the artist's lifestyle think it's hard to find artists. It's really not. So there's a lot out here, but I actually happen to have a network of, I have a collective, but I also have a network of artists that are just artist friends. And a lot of times, because I have good relationships with them, if I call them and just ask them, you know, if they wanted to show, if they'll trust me with their pieces, they just give them to me. And that's another thing too. Artists, actually, some of them covet their work, and their work is like their baby, so it's hard for them to even sometimes let somebody hold it, hang it up, or put it somewhere. But I have relationships where people trust me with their work. I have artists that I know that aren't necessarily collective, I just know that other people have said that's hard for them to get to or contact, or they contacted them and they never responded. And then by the time they talk to me, I just call them and they'll say, okay. And then they'll actually bring the pieces, so that part's easy. As far as facilities, I curate for Gateway CDC. So one of the things that I do for them is I rotate art at the Media Arts Lab, and then when we have events at 39th Street Gallery, I curate those as well. I've actually also been asked to curate other locations. I'll normally get a phone call and someone to tell me, or sometimes someone will contact me as an artist, Keiona Clark Art, which is separate from my brand. But will contact me as an artist, and then they'll say, well, we're looking for other artists, and I'll say, oh, that's not a problem. If you need other artists, just let me know what you're looking for, what the criteria is, and then normally they'll say, oh my God, I'm so glad I called you, and then I'll just end up, curating it from that point. The way I choose the pieces to go into an exhibit is, actually it depends on what the theme of the exhibition is. So there's times where there's actual theme, like Black History Month, there could be Black History Month. There could be Independence Day, maybe an Independence Day theme. Sometimes we do shows, there's a hip hop theme. So when there's a theme, then of course at that point, then you have to take into consideration what the pieces are going to represent, I guess you could say. For the most part, as far as textures and medias and techniques, you try to mix that up a little bit. That's something that you have to kind of do with your eye. Sometimes it goes by the size. Sometimes, when one artist may submit something this size, another artist may submit something that's maybe an 18 by 24, or sometimes they submit things that are like the size of a portrait or a photo. So when you're hanging it up, you have to take that into consideration with the wall space and how it looks and how it flows and how you group it together by how close they are as far as not necessarily style but theme. So I have an artist collective called the DMB League of Artists. I know I keep going back to the breast cancer thing. Before I got breast cancer, I've always been a giving person. So when I became an artist, it was like I felt like I had to give back to the art community because I'm not going to act like my process or that my journey as an artist is hard. It hasn't been, because I've actually been very blessed. And it's not that anything's been given to me, but I just literally made it a point to educate myself on what to do, how to do it. One of the things that I did was started volunteering for Gateway CDC. That was probably that will open the door to me creating this collective that I have. In the beginning, it was literally people come to me for opportunities. That started happening a lot, and the next thing you know, it ended up growing. So we're like a family who is also an organization. Last year we went to Art Basel, which we partnered with Arts and Humanities Council, and we took 13 artists to Art Basel. We rented a house. We showed at Spectrum. We had 2 booths. One booth was sponsored by Arts and Humanities. We had to raise money to go there. The artists paid a really small amount. So if the artists would have went on their own, they would have paid for a booth, which at Spectrum is $5,000. Actually, we got a discount, but their normal booth rate is about maybe $6,500, $7,000 per booth. Plus, they would have had to pay for airfare. Plus, they would have had to pay for a place to stay. But as a collective, we were able to go to Miami. Each artist paid $600. And we stayed in a big house. We all showed, well, not we didn't all show. Some of the artists showed the Spectrum. Some of them showed at the Fearless Artist Pop-Up, which is sponsored by Kiki Somerville, so I'm gonna give her a shout out. So we had 2 booths there. We had 2 booths at Spectrum, and we also did a philanthropy. We did an art board for some children at a homeless shelter in Miami. So Arts and Humanities sponsored 3 of the artists. They pay for the booth in Spectrum for those 3 artists to show and for those artists airfare. And then the other 10 artists, basically we as a collective DMV League sponsors. So I tell people, when you have a collective, it's more of you all work together to make big things happen, because it's harder to do things as a single artist than it is as a group. I've been blessed to, again, have networks. So I call it the League because it reminds me like the Justice League. So I always say everybody has a superpower. My superpower is my networks. My superpower is my resources. So my art can be seen at Busboys and Poets in Brooklyn. I have 4 pieces there. Or I have 2. The Available Wife is a movie that came out. It's not for theaters yet. Double Cross Season 2 is coming up. So you'll see a couple of the League's pieces as well as my own and that as well. The Paints Institute, actually, I had some opportunities as an individual artist to be able to do some murals throughout the city. I have a piece, I have a Toni Morrison mural that's located on in Northeast DC on Minnesota Avenue, Minnesota and Benning Road. I have 2 pieces on New York Avenue, 1 piece on 7th Street. I have 1 piece on the Smithsonian lawn. I have a piece on the Warner Building. And I have a piece at Silver Spring Metro. So as soon as you come off the Metro, you'll see it on the building there. So what art means to me is freedom, growth, because I feel like I grow every year. My passion, it's a stress reliever, it's a anxiety reliever. I think art is all things to me that can calm the spirit, and it's actually a blessing to see that when you do create a piece, in your mind you're creating it, and when someone else sees that vision, then it makes you feel even better.